Hey guys, Mel Williams. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. In these videos, I love talking about men's emotional health as well as the cost of patriarchy to the quality of your own personal individual life and the quality of your relationships with women if you are someone who plans to get married, have a family, and even the quality of your relationships with your children. Okay, how patriarchy is costing you and it is not worth it. Okay, I really want to get you guys to really examine your definition of masculinity and manhood, especially in this patriarchy culture. And in this video, I want to talk about the ways that you can identify that you have been marked by patriarchy culture. Okay, for the past several videos, we've been talking about this book by Giselle Pillicott and her story, and the ways that when women are sharing our stories and our voices that you guys might feel shame and you're internalizing that, and how that shame actually comes from a patriarchy culture, being raised in a patriarchy culture. And so I want to talk about in this video how you can identify whether or not you've been marked by this indoctrination into patriarchy culture and what you can do about that. Okay, so signs and why and how it is dehumanizing you. Okay, the whole point of these videos when I'm talking about patriarchy culture is that it literally is stripping the humanity out of you as a man. Okay, you are a human being and it is stripping the humanity out of you. We're going to talk about the habits surrounding how to deal with shame a little bit more, like we did in the previous video. So the first sign that you have been marked by patriarchy culture for a lot of you is sexualization. Okay, whether it's through porn, whether it's through you being forced to perform sexual acts, like these are signs that you've been marked by patriarchy, this trauma. Okay, so porn. Patriarchy strikes in your most intimate and vulnerable spaces. Most men are introduced to porn by an older man that has marked you already, again, maybe violated you, or a friend who has been marked. So maybe a friend that you knew got marked, okay? Again, 99% of the time, it is done by an older man. In order for a man to dehumanize a woman and women as a collective gender, it requires him to lose a sense of his own humanity. Because a person who acknowledges humanity in others usually isn't the sort to go about actively preying on other people. So watching porn and reducing yourself and women down to objects of sex is often the biggest sign of you being in some stage of the dehumanization process. Okay, everything that I talk about in this video is going to be about how patriarchy culture is dehumanizing you as a man so that you in turn dehumanize women and other people. Okay, so again, men are also being sexualized and objectified. So if you are a man that objectifies women, it's oftentimes because you also objectify yourself and your body and you see yourself as a sexual object and tool yourself, okay? In order for you to see something in another person, you oftentimes have to see that within yourself. Like oftentimes it's projection, okay? Not every time, but oftentimes it is, okay? So in order for a man to dehumanize a woman and women as a collective gender, it requires him to lose a sense of his own humanity. Because a person who acknowledges humanity in others usually isn't the sort to go about actively preying on other people. So watching porn and reducing yourself and women down to objects of sex is often the biggest sign that you are in some stage of dehumanization, okay, in the process of dehumanization. Porn has been sold to you as a way to learn what to do. So a lot of preteens, a lot of you when you're teenage boys, you pick up porn and you're looking it up as a primary source of education to learn how to perform as a man in the bedroom. Again, it goes back to performing as a man, patriarchy culture. But porn isn't a source of education, nor was it ever designed to be. It was purely visual representation of men's sexual fantasies for men's entertainment, and that is it. Women being portrayed as willing and happy participants is also part of the fantasy that men created when they think about having sex and when they created porn. Okay? Porn is for men who are losing their humanity and they don't want to see women as human either. They want to see women as objects. There is a very different kind of sex life for the couple who can see the humanity in each other and in themselves. Okay? Sex in, like, when you are someone who has humanity, then you're not going to be someone that wants to sleep with multiple people, that has random, meaningless sex with a bunch of people. Okay, that is a person that has lost their humanity, a person that sees other people as a means to an end, as maybe a temporary coping mechanism for whatever trauma they haven't healed yet. That is not a person that has humanity realized within them and they can be capable of seeing the humanity in other people. The second way that you can know that you've been marked is that you not only relate to red pill content, but you actively consume it. Okay? We already covered in the previous video how patriarchy systematically marks men to be lifelong victims, but there's a choice that men have to make, okay? You guys have a choice in all of this. Whether to live out your entire lives as traumatized victims who stay relating to trauma and pain, or as men who can heal yourselves and learn to move on and enjoy life. Men who are red pill followers, even when they manage to find themselves in a relationship, you're still not happy. Okay? Even those people on the red pill podcast, I have yet to hear of one that is actually in a happy relationship. That is actually truly genuinely happy. Okay? I've yet to hear or see that. Relationships aren't about being happy for red pill men, as they will admit also. It is about procreating and obedience to a sense of duty, aka performing gender roles, okay? Basically performing gender. And we'll talk more about that in later videos, okay? It is going to be rare to find any man or woman who hasn't been traumatized by the previous generation, because that is quite literally all of our parents and grandparents knew in a society and culture that normalized it as just life. Okay, so previous generations, many of them, many of our parents, grandparents have been passing down trauma and normalizing that. So basically, again, many of us, we learned survival and we have to unlearn that. Okay, previous generations just learned how to cope, and that is what we learn. You don't have to cope when you can heal and move on to a better life. It is going to take being vulnerable and getting the help that you need from others, okay? So again, many of us, especially you guys as men, because you live in a patriarchy culture that tells you that you can't, express your feelings. You can't learn how to process them. You can't ask for help. You can't be seen as vulnerable and weak, okay? And processing your feelings, it makes you feel vulnerable and weak. And so many of you, you learn coping, you learn survival, and you have to realize that you have a choice to choose to actually heal. Instead of continuing to cope and survive, you can choose to actually heal and thrive, okay? The third way that you know that you have been marked is that you are consistently finding escapes in addictive vices such as porn, drugs, sports, dangerous activities, meaningless sex with strangers, even getting married and having a family, which is what the book describes. Okay, that was the form of escape that, was chosen in this story, is that getting married and finding love. Okay, that doesn't save you from your trauma. Okay, you can't escape from the culture of patriarchy or your trauma by getting married. Okay, having a family. You are trying to escape and numb yourself to your reality. Patriarchy knew men needed an escape, and so that is why it is a system that normalizes all of these behaviors in men. It's seen as masculine and manly for you to do these things, okay? It is unladylike or considered masculine for a woman to do any of these things. I want you to pay attention and take note of that. It is unfeminine and considered unladylike if a woman was to watch porn, smoke, drink, do drugs. Take note of that, okay? If a woman watches porn, drinks excessively, or even from a beer bottle, if she smokes, plays sports, hoes around, it's considered that she is trying to behave and act like a man. The only exception is when she marries a man and oftentimes has kids. And if a woman chooses not to do those things, she chooses not to get married and not to have kids, then again, she is seen as not a real woman. The signs have always been there, okay? We just needed to learn the history of where they came from and how to truly understand what they mean about ourselves. Okay, so the signs have always been there. Patriarchy culture, it's always been there, and it's just because it's been so normalized that we don't even realize it. Okay, we don't even notice it. We think that's just the way things are, that's the natural order of things, that's just the way that a man is supposed to be, that's the way that a woman is supposed to be. Like, we are performing gender. Like, these are things that we really have to question and unlearn and ask ourselves, is this serving me? And oftentimes the answer is no, it's not. Okay, you might think and feel like it is, but it's not. It's doing you more harm than good. All right, the fourth sign that you have been marked by patriarchy culture and indoctrination is that you stay running away from your past, your ghosts, your fears. You have no true peace or happiness because you are still carrying around the weight of trauma that you haven't dealt with. Often it's because you don't know how. You feel like you have two different versions of yourself inside of you. So again, that split self, like we talked about in my previous video. You are often at war for dominance on how you present yourself to the world or around certain people. It is exactly this split that lets a man who claims to sincerely love his wife and family cheat on her and cause so much pain and suffering to them all. So again, there's this sense of splitting of self when it comes to being indoctrinated into patriarchy culture. You stay running away, and that's the same thing that was in the story, is that you stay running away from your traumatic past only to honestly find yourself running right back into it. Okay, he was running away from the type of man that his father was, and he became that very same man and even worse. All right. So again, it's not something that you can escape. It's something that you need to face and deal with. And if you need help, get help from a therapist, get help from someone that is there. Don't seek it from your partner, because that's going to be too much to put on the person that you're supposed to be loving. You need to get help from someone who is actually paid to actually invest that in you, and make sure it's someone that's good. It should be someone that you are actually interviewing, like someone that you are hiring for a job. It shouldn't just be anybody, because not just any therapist is going to be the right match and fit for you. All right. To close out this series, I believe this book is a warning to men and a wake-up call that patriarchy is a system that, yes, hates and uses women as the punching bag for men's suffering, which it's also responsible for and wants to suck you into. Okay, so patriarchy is also responsible for your suffering. But again, it is also the reason that you are suffering in the first place, and why so many men are literally marked to become criminals. Okay, so many of you guys are facing this like struggle in this dual reality. You kind of feel like maybe there's this beast inside of you that might, push you someday in the future to becoming a criminal, because you do something that you shouldn't. You break the law, you hurt somebody, you do something that you shouldn't, and you constantly feel like you're constantly battling this, darker side of yourself, so to speak. Okay, a lot of men are like that. It is a cycle of generations of men marking each other through traumatic experiences and abuse. That is literally what it is from an emotional health and relationship standpoint. If you're not careful, you will get sucked into it, like what happened to the man in this story. Okay, again, he was traumatized by his father, he was traumatized by other men in his childhood, and he was running away from that. He ran into marriage, he ran into having a family and love, only for him to eventually again get sucked into patriarchy culture and become worse than the men that he was trying to run from, and to do worse things than the trauma that he had experienced. Okay, so you cannot run from patriarchy culture. You're going to have to face it. You're going to have to face your trauma. You're going to have to deal with it. Okay, if not, you will get sucked into it. So men need to find and use your voices as well. Speak up for yourselves, not in defense, but to heal, to grow, to move on, to evolve. I believe that women can help to save men, and we can help to save each other. But we have to want to be saved. If she can move forward after what was done to her, then you can too. Okay? If this woman, if Giselle can move forward after what was done to her, then I think it's a testament that we all can, and you can too as well. No matter which side you were born on, okay? No matter what gender you were born, man, woman, in between, like, you can heal and you can move on, and this story is proof of that. That is why I highly encourage you to get this book, read it, check it out, because again, if she can survive what she experienced, then that's just a testament to the strength of humanity and what choosing love can actually do, instead of choosing patriarchy culture. What choosing yourself can actually do, instead of choosing performing gender roles. Okay, so again, when it comes to talking about men's emotional health, their quality of life and relationships, it's really going to boil down to you being able to face the truth about what is going on internally. What traumas have you experienced? Have you done the work to actually heal from that trauma, or are you still carrying it around? Are you still just coping? Like, what have you done to actually heal your ability to, your sense of humanity, as well as your sense of being able to connect with others? Because what happens in patriarchy indoctrination, these rituals where you are being conditioned and indoctrinated to go from being a boy to a man, like what's happening in that ritual process is you being desensitized, is you losing your humanity, it's you losing your ability to connect with other people, especially in intimate relationships. Okay, this is why so many of you struggle in relationships with women. Like, you can get into a relationship with a woman, you can get married, have kids, the whole 9-yard house and the picket fence. You can do all of those things, but you are not happy and you're not satisfied, because you ultimately have to deal with a sense of dissatisfaction and trauma that you are dealing with yourself. Okay, you need to be comfortable and happy living your life in your body before you're able to find that with another person, okay, in a relationship. So hopefully these videos have helped you guys better understand that hearing women's stories is actually a call to action. It is not a shaming tactic. It's actually a call to action, that women want men to be better. We want to love you. We want to be successful in relationships with you, but that's not going to happen if you guys are not willing to hear and listen to women and to change, okay? To do the work that you need to do to evolve and become better versions of yourself. And that's going to take you facing your trauma, facing your pain, facing your past, and dealing with that, okay? So hopefully this video has helped you guys on that end. In future videos, again, we're going to be talking about this book right here. This has a lot of good stuff that we're going to be talking more so about the shame that you guys feel, not in relation to women's voices, but just internally. So we'll get more into that in upcoming videos. Hopefully this video was helpful. This series was helpful. And again, I really care about men's emotional health and well-being, the quality of your life. And if you're willing to do the work, then I am here to help you. This channel, this platform, everything I do is here to help you heal. Okay?